Well, it is day 37 of the government shutdown, now the longest in U.S. history. To break down where things stand right now and what's at stake, we're joined by Mark Hamrick, senior economic analyst at Bankrate. Mark, good to have you with us. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Chris. Thank you.
So we've been talking about this all morning. Starting Friday, the FAA is going to reduce airline traffic at high-volume markets, including obviously here in New York, our three major airports. All of this to maintain safety during the ongoing shutdown. Last time that the government shut down this long was back in 2019, and it was chaos at the airports that finally broke that stalemate. Is this a similar pressure point emerging right now?
I think it has been, and I think it will be, and I think it'll be more so, Chris. And as I recall, you fact-checked me on this, I feel like Newark was kind of the epicenter of that back in the previous shutdown. Here, the government is doing two things, I think. Number one is just making a prudent move in the sense of, you've got equipment out of place, you've got crews and pilots out of place, and of course, you have the ongoing pressures that the controllers themselves are experiencing. Some are taking part-time jobs because they're not getting their paychecks. The last thing you want for one of the highest stress jobs is have somebody overtired. So I do think we'll probably see the pressure on this build through the weekend. And then, of course, the gazillion-dollar question is, do lawmakers in Washington align themselves with the reality that everybody else is experiencing and understand they need to fund the government?
Well, that seems to be an issue that's been plaguing government for quite some time. They don't actually understand the reality of what's going on the ground.
For sure, and think about the fact, and when I saw this number in the past few days, it really, to me, was quite stunning that 1 in 8 people in this country are reliant on food stamps, and that supply has now been compromised in the sense of there's not a sure thing that people are going to get the aid that they typically count on. And having 42 million people potentially going hungry because lawmakers have this dispute that they can't iron out across the board. Tomorrow, Chris, we would typically be getting part of the gold standard of economic data release that you and I would be talking about, and that is the monthly employment report. It'll be the second straight month we don't get that. So we're operating in the fog, a lack of clarity. It undermines confidence for consumers and businesses. Oh, and by the way, the holiday shopping season is effectively underway.
Yeah, and the Fed was quick to point that out at the meeting just last week, that we really don't know the economic numbers out there. So it's very difficult for us to kind of base what the future outlook is going to look like. So one of two things. The president will constantly look at the stock market as a sign of, hey, the economy's great. But what we know is most of the country is not invested in the stock. The people that are really being affected by all this, they're not really in the market. 401ks, things like that. That's, there's two-class structures, as we know, nationwide. So when you're not getting these numbers and you're not getting an accurate economic forecast, how tough is that when people who are in the market see the market flourishing right now? Heaven forbid when those realistic numbers come out and you see we could be in for quite the rebound.
Well, number one, I would say is the stock market is primarily powered by earnings, and that obviously is underscored by the quality of the economy at any given time. And lately, of course, the quality of those earnings has been primarily driven by AI and technology. We do get earnings reports from those companies, and they actually have not disappointed. That's leaving aside the valuations or the prices of those stocks, which are seen as inflated. Interest rates play a role in the performance of the stock market as well. Interest rates coming down help the stock market. That's not to say the current level of stock prices is entirely sustainable. Stocks move up and down over time. It's been a while since we've had a significant sell-off. Chris, your point is so well made. We have this bifurcation or the K-shaped economy situation where we have 10% of the most wealthy people in the country are responsible now for 50% of consumer spending. It's middle income, lower income folks that are really struggling as prices remain elevated.
I hate to bring up the R word, recession, but at some point, political gridlock like this could point the economy in that direction. At what point do you think we are at? I mean, I know it's been 37 days, and for some, they might say, well, that's not a long time, but it is now the longest shutdown that we've had. At what point do economists start saying, hey, you know what, we really need to get serious about this? This is a lot bigger than just two sides fighting over what issues that they feel are most prevalent.
Well, I'd say that's been the take even before the shutdown, Chris. In terms of recession, we surveyed private economists on this at Bankrate, a story written by my colleague Sarah Foster on our quarterly economist survey. They put the odds of a recession in the next 12 months at 4 in 10. That's elevated, but it's not a sure thing. But the shutdown, particularly the longer it goes, does raise the risk of that. And just this morning, Challenger Gray and Christmas told us that the number of job cut announcements in the month of October, private sector data, not from the federal government, amounted to 153,000 job cuts. That's up 175% from a year ago. So the casualties are mounting here. And so let's hope that elected officials in Washington help get those controllers in a situation where air traffic can be certainly at normal levels and heavily reliable, and the rest of us can go about our regular lives.
Nobody spells it out better than you, Mark. Thanks again. Really good to see you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.